Welcome to the Dillweed Society film podcast. My name is Max, and my favorite film is Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say.
No way.
For my favorite movie. My name is Isabella, and my favorite movie is also Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Hell yeah.
You should see it.
You should see it.
Today we're gonna talk about the rehearsal, because we just finished the last episode, and we were like, let's just throw on the voice recorder.
Absolutely.
Because we have things to say.
The Rehearsal is the newest work by Nathan Fielder. Nathan Fielder, most famous for
Nathan for You.
Nathan for You, a TV show where he comes up with bad business pitches. Nathan Fielder is very iconic for being just a very awkward person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he's known for being, awkward.
Yeah. Do you have a pitch for this show?
Oh, well, there's one right there. It says, Nathan Fielder allows ordinary people to prepare for life's biggest moments by, quote-unquote, rehearsing them in carefully crafted simulations. He builds these giant sets to, rehearse things with people.
Yeah, like the first episode, there's someone who is just terrified of telling his trivia night friends that he lied about having a graduate degree, that he only has a bachelor's degree.
Right, and he's so terrified of telling them that because he feels like he's been lying to them. So Nathan literally recreates the bar where they have trivia, and
he hires actors to play background bar people in the bar, to play the people who work at the bar.
And then throughout the show, because it is a TV show, it's not a movie, but throughout the TV show he kind of gets enveloped in one of these scenarios, and he puts himself into the rehearsal, and it becomes a lot more reflective of his own anxieties and his own life, I think.
I totally agree. I really didn't expect that after the second or third episode that the story with Angela was someone who was chosen to be on the show, who wants to practice being a mother.
Right. Because
she doesn't know what it's going to be like. She's such a character.
I think a lot of people are used to seeing Nathan for You, so that Nathan for You has two different storylines that are kind of silly, and 2 per 20-minute episode. Whereas these episodes are 30 minutes. They go on, they connect, they interweave within one another. So with Angela's, he builds this entire house, and he's built the simulation so they have different child actors that come in and out to play the child, and it's so crazy. You remember the first scene of the second episode where they're climbing in through the window of this house and stealing the baby? It's so, It makes you think that they're abducting a child, when in reality, legally they can't have someone under 4 years old act for more than 4 hours at a time. Right. And so they just have to constantly be swapping them out. Yeah. I think he planned for more rehearsals, because in episode 3 there's that guy with the in the will, he's written in the will, and then he can't get the money. Right. The guy who's trying to convince his brother, the executor of his grandfather's will, to give him the money that was in the will. But his brother asserts that there's this stipulation in the will that he can't give the person rehearsing the money if he's with someone who's going to steal the money, if he's dating someone who's a gold digger. But my point is I feel he planned for more things like that. Yeah. But he just got so involved in the Angela's storyline. It's definitely the most expensive of all of them. And he must have known early on that it was sort of going to take up a lot of the show, just because the way they plan it out is that Angela is going to raise child actors for, I think, 6 weeks. And every week, the actor is going to increase in age by 3 years. So they're going to go from a 1-year-old to a 4-year-old to a 7-year-old, all the way up to 18 years old. And they rented out this entire house for the show. They must have known that it would have taken a lot, but I don't think that they expected, I think, like you said, I don't think they expected Nathan to get involved as much as he did. Maybe. I don't know. Although, I don't know. It's really hard to know what was planned and what wasn't, because everything's planned. It's pretty clear about this, that everything is planned. Right, because there's often scenarios that you're watching where suddenly you realize that it's a rehearsal.
Like, it's not the actual thing that's going on.
The woman who they got to rehearse Angela with him is crazy good.
Spot on.
Give her an freaking Oscar.
Yeah. What did you think of the, like, Fielder Method subplot? That's the 4th episode where they sort of try to get actors who are going to be good at doing this show. I was just going to say, that's the first episode that gets really meta, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I like how meta it is, and, like, it shows, like, kind of behind the scenes. Because I think Nathan with this show wants to be very transparent about what's going on behind the scenes, because it is, like, a documentary show, kind of just documenting, like, his life. But he was also always, like, part of it, right? Because the whole show revolves around his own anxiety, and his anxiety about needing to rehearse things so that you get them right. And he finds people who are like him, because that was how he introduced the first episode. He was like, I found people who, like, I'm not alone in this, and I think there's something to that. Even, they sort of hinted it early on, because in the first episode, after he meets the person that is going to be doing the rehearsing, he shows that he had someone secretly sneak into the guy's house and, like, take pictures of everything and observe him. And then that he practiced the introduction that we saw in the first scene. Right. He had rehearsed it. So, yeah, he's clearly, like, using all of this on himself early on. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He's always involved in each of the storylines. Yeah, I love how Nathan Fielder can, like, just show people's humanity, but not in, like, any sort of, like, deeper sense, but literally just, like, showing what people are like and the scenarios that they can be put in to make them act a certain way. And I think that's, like, a big appeal of Nathan for you. He creates these fantastic scenarios that, like, you'd think no one would put up with, but you really do see, like, how accommodating everyone is to his weirdness and his weird ideas. Like, people are a lot more interesting than I think we tend to think, maybe. And I think Nathan Fielder does a really good job of... And the things that he produces. Do you ever see How To with John Wilson? I didn't, no. Yo, you gotta see How To with John Wilson. Okay. Imagine being selected to be put on this show. Like, the actors. It seems like such a trip, though, because part of me thinks that it can't be... That, it, like, some of them have to be scripted. Because it's so unethical. Why? A lot, like, for example, when in the 3rd episode, when he gets the guy, he has the actor who is interacting with the participant, the Gold Digger episode, bring the participant to a fake grandfather's house. Another actor is there. The participant thinks that they're off the clock, right, but actually they're on. His fake grandfather finds a bunch of money and tells him that he wants to give it to him. Yeah. And then dies the next day. Dies, quote unquote, because it's an actor. I think they might be wary of it because of the cameras. Like, they can see the cameras, but I don't know, like, thinking that it's scripted, that goes against so much of what I've learned about Nathan Fielder. Yeah. Like, so manipulative and unethical if it's not scripted. It's hard for me to imagine anyone... Why is that unethical? Because you're putting these people in situations that they, like, didn't sign up for. Like, that they don't... They probably did sign up for it. Like, I don't know, it's reality television. Yeah, I guess so. The participant thinks that he is practicing for a conversation with his brother. Yeah. And then afterwards, he, like, drives with this guy to help him, like, it was like shovel something. Yeah. I mean, he agreed to do all of it. Right, he agreed to do all of it. Yeah. But he didn't know that it was all a manipulation. Well, this sort of thing happens a lot in the show, right? Where, like, they get people to interact with their targets. They get actors to interact with the people who they are modeling under false pretenses so that they can, like, figure out stuff about their life. And there's a lot of, like, deception in the show of, like... Is that deception? I don't know. How is it not deception? Like, you're not saying that you're not doing it. Like, when he has that woman who models Angela... Come and babysit the child. And pretend to be a nanny. Yeah, I mean, she also could have been a nanny. Like... But she's not. She's an actor. Yeah, you can be an actor and a nanny. I don't know. Like, I think that there must have been, like... They must know. Like, I think that's a big part of it. Like, at the end when Angela is like, this is, like, what family? Like, this isn't real. Like, this isn't real.
Angela doesn't say that. The actor says that.
No, I know, but, like, I think, like, they must know. That's like, why the guy in the 3rd episode in Gold Digger, like, leaves. He doesn't even respond to Nathan. Because it probably wasn't what he wanted. But, like, the people who stuck around. So, I don't know.
Yeah. They must know that something is I agree with you. Yeah, that something's going on.
Yeah. I think personally, I liked the first episode a lot. Like, I thought that was, like, the route that the show was taking with the trivia night, and like the way that he built the conversation around, like,
if they say this,
you say this, like, stuff like that.
I
loved that, yeah.
And then when it actually pulled it off, it was so exciting to see. Right.
But with Angela's, like, there's so many different variables. Like, you get too involved. And you can't, like, throughout the show, I think he has trouble putting himself in the scenarios. Like, he's acting. He's not being.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to train himself to be a father. But he can't break himself out of, like, acting. And, like, because he's so involved,
Right. We didn't mention, he co-parents with Angela in the second half of the show. So he's, like, pretending to be their dad because Angela was like, I need there to be a second figure in the house.
Right.
The show is more about him than the participants.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, like, it's so much about his own self-criticism, He is so anxious, or his character, I guess, is so anxious about messing things up or not knowing what to do, because he like we said at the beginning, he is incredibly awkward. That sort of bleeds into what he chooses to explore in the show. Like, he doesn't know if he was a good instructor for the Fielder method class. What happens? He
pretends to be one of the students in the class, and he gets one of the students to play him, and he sits in as the student and sees how he was observed in class. I mean, that's a very normal experience, I think.
To wonder what other people perceive you as.
Yeah. It's like if I send someone, or, like, if I tell someone to watch a movie, I might, like, watch the movie from their perspective. Like, when I watch it.
Right.
Yeah, to see, like, oh, how would they think about this certain thing. I think that's what's so, like, intriguing about the show. It's because it's, like, such a real worry,
Right, it's so honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about the last episode because there's so much more to talk about with the prior episodes, but, like, exploring the, like, larger themes of it. I guess the climax of the last episode is him realizing that he can't prepare for everything, mm-hmm. and that sometimes preparing for everything is still, like, not going to solve anything.
Yeah. I mean, there's always, like, little bits throughout the episodes, like, with the woman who's teaching his fake son about Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on the way in a car with him to talk to Angela about being anti-Semitic. And Nathan goes, do you usually, like, rehearse? Do you want to rehearse for something like this? And she goes, no, I just, like, shoot from the gut, or whatever she says.
Shoot from the hip.
Shoot from the hip, yeah. And he, like, does a little chuckle. Like, that's, like, throughout.
Right. It's admirable that she's able to just do it.
No, I think he's observing that people don't need to.
Mm.
Like, it's at that point in the series, because it is only 6 episodes long, but in the first 3, he's so in on his method, and he's so involved. After the first episode, we know it works. Like, we know it's a possibility to use this method to relieve some sort of anxiety. And then when she comes up in episode 5, it's kind of a wake-up call to him, and he's like, maybe it doesn't have to be all rehearsed, But also, like, it did work. Like, he got there in the end. He came to the conclusion that not everything needs to be rehearsed by rehearsing it.
I know. That's what's so weird. The last 2 episodes are sort of about how one of the child actors is confused about whether Nathan is really his dad or not.
Mm-hmm.
And Nathan feels tons of regret about that, about like this child, if like he's actually his dad or not. Yeah. Like he feels really bad about that. And so what he does to fix it is like do more rehearsals with more child actors. Like he gets one of the I think 7-year-old or like 8-year-old child actors to play the 4-year-old child actor, because he trusts that 7 or 8-year-old a lot more to emotionally understand. And there's this great scene where he's like, you know that I'm not your dad, right? To this 7-year-old child actor.
Yeah, like he has to break character.
Yeah. That's so, like, real. Like, he's been talking about throughout the whole show needing to have everything be perfect. Like, you never break character. This was a big thing, like, a problem that he had with Angela, that she, like, would break character often. But he's so, like, consumed by the regret of messing up that earlier child actor that he has to break, like, the one thing that he's never broken before. And it seems like even after the kid tells him, like, yeah, I know you're not my dad, he still doesn't believe him. Like, he asks him, like, again, like, you get that, like, your name is not Adam. Yeah. My name is not Dad. I'm Nathan.
Also, something is, like, they're breaking character not from acting. Like, they're acting being actors. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you put a camera in front of somebody, it's always different. You know, like we put a recording in front of us, and I talk differently than if I were just to talk to Max, like normally, I think.
Right.
And I think that's true of even Nathan, who has been put in front of a screen and behind the screen, like, very often throughout his career. Like, he's on the screen, he's acting as Nathan Fielder, like, as what we know as Nathan Fielder. And sure, he's his own person, separate from that, but I think he could never really connect fully with acting, and never, like, felt the emotions that he was trying to feel. It's like that one scene, remember when the fake Angela is like, it's sad how you will never feel an emotion. It's so sad, and you never will. And I think that really hit home for him, maybe.
He had to stop the rehearsal.
Yeah.
He was like, maybe we can do it with you being a little less aggressive.
A little less aggressive, yeah.
But I understand it. Like, that must hit home.
Because he's acting as himself, but as this person who we know as Nathan Fielder.
He's clearly, like, playing a character of himself.
Right. I think, that tends to happen. You act this character for so long that you become this character. And I think he always tries to be real, but I think in that he's created a different self than his own self. I don't know.
It seems like he can't, like, figure out how to fix it without turning it into content. Or, like, without being on screen. Yeah. Like, even after, I mean, he brings these cameras with him to, like, go talk to the kid.
Right. Like, that's what I was thinking. I was like, if that were me, I would go without the cameras.
Right.
But that also is the show.
Right.
Like, it's part of the show to...
It's just a compulsion for him, though.
I don't know if it is. I think he knows that it would round out the show. Like, the show wouldn't be anything if it didn't include that last part.
I agree, but somehow,
it makes it a lot more real.
Rounding out the show is, like, more important to him than making sure that the kid is, like, that he isn't playing Nathan Fielder when he tells the kid, I'm not your dad.
I mean, I think he knows, like, I think obviously he told the mom, like, he asked the mom if it was okay to bring cameras, like,
yeah, definitely.
I'm sure that everyone's aware of the situation. It's the reality of the last episode that makes the show so great, I think.
Oh, yeah. From a viewing perspective, I wouldn't have had it done any other way. But the show almost asks you to live the self-criticism that he lives, like, of himself.
Does it? The self-criticism?
Yeah, like, he's constantly second-guessing himself and replaying past events to see how he could have done it better. And then I guess it almost naturally makes me think, like, in replaying these events, you're just creating more things that you might have mistaken or like made a mistake of, and would have to rehearse the rehearsal of the rehearsal.
But there's so many layers. But when he goes to, like, the house in the end, I don't know if he's asking you to. He's, like, very apparent about how real everything is.
Yeah.
It's such a great concept for a reality show, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It explores like very human experiences and desires, like the desire to do something over again.
Yeah.
Or the desire to like know the consequences of your action before you do it. In a way that I can't think of like other reality TV shows that like focus so hard on that.
Or movies in general. Like I think a lot of media is reflecting like ourselves in it, or I think a lot of it tries to.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, but like especially with a narrative show where you're writing it, you have actors acting it. Like I think it's less real. Like you don't get all of the like behind the scenes stuff with Nathan Fielder's show.
Yeah, something that we didn't talk about is how this show is like a spectacle show. Like, every single episode, if I'm ever watching it with somebody, they're like, how did he pay for all that?
Yeah.
Like, it's so expensive of a show to produce for what? But that's like...
But you don't even think about that. Like, if you're watching, like, a Marvel movie, you don't think about the budget for it.
Right.
But it's so weird seeing all the behind-the-scenes work. And, like, he's very apparent. He's like, I built this set. Like, this set, you see all the pieces of the set. It's a set. Whereas if you're watching, like, a different movie or a different show, like, they don't tell you that.
No.
You just have to speculate. So you're constantly being like, what the hell? How did he get so much money? Like... I really, if you had to guess, what would you say is the budget for this show?
The budget for the show? With all the actors and the amount of time that it took, it has to be in the multi-millions. Like,
yeah, I'm thinking 100 million.
100 million?
I think so.
Yeah, like...
He said alone he saved $15,000.
For one scene.
For one scene.
By hiring background actors instead of...
Gotta be, yeah.
Yeah, like tens of millions to 100 million. Yeah. Which is just ridiculous for like a 6-episode TV show.
Should we talk about the comedy?
Should we talk about Angela?
Okay, you can talk about Angela.
What do you mean by the comedy, though?
The comedy? I just think Nathan Fielder has a very niche sense of humor, and I think the way the show is edited plays a lot into it, because, like, obviously they're gonna choose the most awkward, like, the most comedic, but also in, like, a cringy way, like, secondhand embarrassment way, like...
Yeah.
I think, like, I find it very funny, but I know a lot of people are put off by it. And it's the same humor as was in Nathan For You. Did you ever see Finding Frances?
I did not see Finding Frances. I really want to, though.
I made Mom and Dad watch that. They loved it. Oh, actually, Dad hated it. But it's the finale episode of Nathan For You, and it's like a movie length.
I know the premise. Yeah, I've got to see it. But this is very similar to Nathan For You. Like what you said earlier, he like brings out the weirdness of people that they normally hide when like they're interacting with a normal person. Like, for example...
Well, I don't know. He just like shows it on camera. I think you see it every day, but you don't really think about it. Whereas like if you're seeing it on a television with like millions of dollars put into it, I think you're more keen to be aware of what people do and how people act. Because I think everyone is very real in the show. What did you have to say about Angela?
She's such a character.
Yeah.
Like, she's constantly talking about, like, how different this and that is, like, a satanic ritual.
Yeah.
And, like, Bohemian Grove. I don't know what, like, her future is going to look like. It seems like it would be really difficult for her to find somebody that she matches with. Based on, like, because that's the first episode with her, right? Is her trying to find somebody to co-parent with her.
Yeah.
And she's got, like, a very specific set of requirements for a co-parent.
Did you see the tweet about, like, the DM between the first guy that she has, like, pretend to be the father? Mm-hmm. Like, the one who's really religious and always talking about numbers?
Yeah, he, like, sees, like...
He sees numbers.
7-7.
Yeah. So, people were like, did you ever get, like, away from your roommate? And he messaged them back and been like, yeah, he died in a car accident, thank God. Like, because remember how he hated his roommate? Yeah. He's, like, trying to get away from his roommate. I don't know if that's real. But, I mean, what he said was real. But right. He might be lying. I don't know. But that's just, like, shows the reality of, like, the situation. Like, there's a lot of, like... I mean, everyone's weird. Like, everyone has weird things that they do. And everyone, like... I think that just... This show just tends to... bring out the weirdness. the show forces you to pick sides sometimes. Because you're always against Angela and for Nathan, because he keeps on showing the clips of like her saying her like crazy wacky beliefs, the older woman to teach Judaism, and then you find out that she has like
the tutor
interesting politics as well, and he still doesn't know how to stand up for himself, and he's like,
definitely,
I think that's just like a wake-up call that you can see people is shown in a different light than maybe they are. There's always like more levels.
That's very true.
Have you been seeing the Gabbie Hanna stuff?
No.
Oh my god, are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not on TikTok.
Bro, shit is wild.
What does she do?
She thinks that she's the second coming of Christ, and that she posts like 400 videos a day, and people sent police to her house for a wellness check. So people were like, you're probably going through a manic episode, and we want to like check in on you. But there's a lot of TikTok discourse right now on that. I hate TikTok discourse. It's
like a worse version of Twitter discourse, which is like a worse version of Tumblr discourse,
which is like Instagram infographics.
What? Yeah, I guess like
all the people in Bodies would repost infographics on Instagram. Not in a bad way. No. I know many people like that. I just realized that's something that that Rachel Sennot's character did in Bodies all the time. Like, so she would say something, and then someone would respond to her, and she'd be like, oh, not in a bad way. Like, it's fine. Yeah, like, not in a bad way. Do you have any other thoughts on Nathan Fielder or Nathan For You or The Rehearsal?
I have a lot of thoughts. I'm still trying to, like... It made me feel, like, very strong emotions that I didn't expect to feel while I was watching it.
Like what?
Like, the last 2 episodes in particular were, like, it's so... I don't know. It was so clear the way that he struggled with, like, how to do the right thing, or how to, like, do his job and not, like, put people in danger of, like, being hurt by his mistakes. I think that's, like, you know, that's, like, a very real thing if, like, if you worry about, like, messing with people.
Like, in preparing to not hurt anyone, he's worried about hurting people.
Right. You know, it doesn't help because you can't not be, like, moving through the world.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought that was something that was really interesting to explore. Like, his inability to get out of the cycle of rehearsing was so just, like, cool and accurate to this internal thing that, like, everybody does. And then seeing, I think, the resolution of that, which is just, like, you gotta recognize you're gonna make mistakes, and, like, you can't, you know, you can't rehearse it all. And, like, well, talking about forgiveness with her, I think was really interesting. Yeah. Because he apologizes to her, to Angela, for saying that she wasn't taking it seriously. And she says, I forgive you. And then she says, like, you gotta forgive yourself as much as you forgive other people. And it seemed kind of innocuous at the time.
Right.
But then, like, 20 minutes later, that's the conclusion that he comes to. I don't know. I never would have... I thought that this was like a comedy similar to Nathan For You, but with a higher budget. And I didn't expect it to be so much of a character drama about himself. That was actually a documentary.
He keeps trying to rehearse things, but you can't run away from reality, you know?
Exactly.
It's so cool.
It's such a good show.
Yeah. Like, everyone who I know who has seen it has loved it. Like, I watched this with my roommates, and we had like a 2-hour-long discussion afterwards. I wish I recorded it. But it's so crazy. I got Teddy to watch the show. I mentioned that when I recommended this, like, early on in the podcast. I got our younger brother to watch this entire show, because I think Teddy relates a lot to Nathan Fielder, maybe. And Teddy's like, so what you're saying is it actually does work. That's what he's saying. I'm like, I don't know. You gotta watch the show to find out. And then you come to your own conclusion.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's so well done. Good work.
Good work, Nathan. I think I'm going to be thinking about this show a lot. It almost feels like a Greek play or something, where in the way that it sort of explores this emotion from, like, lots of different perspectives, and, like, overarching intent that you don't, like, catch right away, but sort of becomes clear towards the end. Pretty good show.
Pretty darn good. If you want to see it, It's short. It's on HBO Max. It's only 6 episodes long. They're all out, so you can watch them back to back if you want.
Each episode is half an hour, so it would take you...
Yeah. Max, what would you rate this show out of 5?
Yeah. Right now I'm going to say 4.5.
4.5 out of 5.
4.5 out of 5?
Yeah.
I'm between 4.5 and 5 out of 5, but I'm going to lock in 4.5 out of 5. Amazing show. Huge recommendation. Yeah.
I'm going to say 5 out of 5 because I have watched this thing probably 3 times over in total with different people. I can't get enough of it. I absolutely love this show.
It is a tough year for our temporary category. It's not official yet, but this is the one that I am vying for in our temporary categories votes.
Yeah.
Which is Best New TV Show. Best first season of a TV show, which came out this year. We've had a lot of good TV shows this year.
Great ones.
Literally any of them could win, and I would be very happy about that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to pop in and remind you all that our website is being updated with a link to become Sociate to be able to nominate and vote on this year's films. There's information about new movies coming out and our podcast episodes and a lot of other stuff, so you can find that at dillweedsociety.com and at Dillweed Society on Twitter and Instagram. Please get in contact with us if you want to be featured on the pod through our email, dillweedsociety@gmail.com. And feel free to share the pod or our website with your film friends. We'd love to hear from you or even have you on the pod. All right, now back to today's podcast.
Now we're going to get into our recommendation segment. Do you have a recommendation, Max?
Give me a minute or two.
I'm going to recommend, it's a movie called Windfall. It's actually, it's weird. So it's starring Lily Collins, Jason Segel. Is it Segel or Segal? I never know.
Segel? I think he pronounces it Segel.
Jason Segel and Jesse Plemons. And I think it's got to be filmed during the pandemic because there's only 3 people in the cast. Basically the premise is Jason Segel's character breaks into the house of, these 2 celebrities. He's, trying to rob them, but he's also trying to make sure that they don't, get him arrested. To me, it feels very much like it could have been made in the 40s. I think it would have been a lot better if it was made in the 40s, TBH. But it has that vibe of it, of the Hollywood elites and how they live and the conversations that you'd have. I also want to say the soundtrack in it is amazing. That's, I think, half the reason why I feel like it feels like a 40s film. The soundtrack is spectacular. It's gorgeous. It really makes the movie worth watching. But if you like any of those celebrities, I suggest giving it a watch. It's on Netflix.
Nice, yeah. That cast sounds really good. That sounds really exciting. The content which I have consumed that came out this year, which I would like to recommend the most, is another video essay. This is a common trend for me, but I watch a lot of video essays in comparison to movies or TV shows. Yeah. The one that I would like to recommend is a video by Jacob Geller called Gross Games About Flesh and Stuff. It's a pretty cool comparative literature video essay about 2 video games that have similar themes but different content. It just sort of takes you along for a fun ride exploring the themes of these 2 games and what you can sort of learn from them in dialogue with each other. Yeah, it's by Jacob Geller. It was published 2 weeks ago, and it is on YouTube.
Cool. We should watch that right now.
Alrighty.
All right.
We did not rehearse this.
No.
If it's not clear, we didn't rehearse the podcast prior to doing it.
No, it was very spontaneous.
Yeah.
We just finished the show and we're like, let's record a podcast episode.
I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next Monday.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.